Let's take a closer look at the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch figure of Crosshair Imperial version from the Bad Batch. Varykino, living the Star Wars life. Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking a closer look at and unboxing the Black Series 6-inch figure of Crosshair, the Imperial version from the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch is currently airing its third and final season on Disney+, so I decided it's finally time to open up my Bad Batch Black Series. I've been trying to collect as many as I can from this show. I really enjoy it, so I decided that now's the right time to finally open these guys all up and get a display built for my shelf. So before we open up the box here, I'm just going to take a closer look at the packaging. For the Bad Batch series, we have this sort of dark red color used to accent the box. Of course, the original Clone Force 99 armor is sort of this dark red and gray, so I understand why they've used that color, even though sometimes it proves just a little bit harder to read against the black of the Black Series boxes. We can see that color stripe here, Star Wars The Bad Batch, and if I hopefully catch it in the light, you can see Crosshair Imperial in that dark red color against that black background there. Nice plastic window. We can see the figure and his accessories inside there. On the side, it is a little bit dark because, of course, he is wearing black armor, but we have Crosshair in his Imperial black armor, helmet on, blaster raised. We've got a few starfighters here in the background with a planet. Going down to that dark red color, which is really quite hard to see on camera. It says Crosshair Imperial there just at the bottom. So of course it looks really cool when you sort of build that puzzle piece and line them all up for display on your shelf. Very cool. I like to keep the boxes. We have that art repeated here. We can see on the stripe, this is 09 of the Bad Batch series. And we have a updated bio for Crosshair because of course now he's in his different armor. Formerly a member of the Bad Batch, Crosshair's loyalties shift after his team defects from Imperial service. Committed to the Empire, Crosshair leads a new squad of enlisted recruits. So yes, then we've got the copyright text kind of all over the place here. A little bit of a side window there showing some of the accessories. A little bit of that top window. There you go. Pretty classic Black Series box. I always do love that side art. So now it's time to open them up. So now I have the Crosshair figure out of the box. Let's see if we can see more of those fabulous details close up because he is full black. In the box, he's a little bit shadowed. It was a little bit hard to see all of the details. It's pretty much all in black plastic with a few painted details. So let's go through some of it. For comparison's sake, I do have the original Crosshair Clone Force 99 original gear here for comparison because I'm just curious to see how different it is. I also wanted to note that this one came with his helmet off in the packaging. This one, he came with his helmet on inside the box. So I'm really keen to see what the head sculpts are like between these two figures as well. So I'm just going to pop this one off to the side so we can take a closer look at the Imperial version first before we get into some really good in-depth comparisons. So the helmet, let's see. Yep, the rangefinder still moves. And we've got some really fun green and silver details. His head is moving really quite freely on this figure, I must say, which is kind of interesting. And not too much else in the way of painted details, of course, all black. We've got a silver belt buckle here. That's showing up really nicely. And the rest of the painted details are pretty much all on the helmet. A little bit of green and silver there. And oh, we've got some little silver details here on the back of the belt. Yeah, so that's about it. It kind of looks just a little bit two-tone because we've got sort of that shinier armor, and then we've got the what would be in World the fabric sort of undersuit that has those vertical lines on it there. Yeah, so not a terribly detailed figure in terms of the paint job. So I'm just going to take a look at some of the sculpting details. So one of the things that I can see is that we've got that raised 99 from the Clone Force 99. We see that on the original Crosshair figure, and I can pop that one in here. We can see on here The skull was painted, but the 99 is actually erased plastic there. And so I believe because the weathering stripes are in the same place, there are like these little two cuts where there's kind of weathering on the armor. And on the same here, there's like a little weathered patch, and the same is on this figure here. So I believe that this is the same armor component, just fully painted black or made out of black plastic, as opposed to this one that it's made out of gray with that black, white and red painted details. So we can see that that 99 is still there. And on the side as well, I can just catch it in the light. You can just, it's really, really subtle, but it's there. There we go. But yeah, we've got that fun weathering that I do like from the Bad Batch range. We've got all these sort of little scoring marks and sort of little pitted damage that just adds a little bit of something. It is a little bit harder to see on the all black figure, but I like that that is still there. It gives it just a little bit more sort of finer detail, particularly on these larger scale Black Series figures compared to, say, the Vintage Collection 3.75. So we've got sort of essentially the Republic Commando armor that the Bad Batch wears in all black. I see a lot of similarities to that original figure. We've got the chest armor, abs, codpiece, thighs, knees, shins, the boots with that sort of classic clone trooper strap over the ankle. We've got biceps, gauntlets, a little bit of armor on the back of the gloves here as well. And those pieces down the back. We've got a peg there for the backpack. Yep, looking pretty much as I expected. There's quite a deep peg hole on the back of his, gauntlet. I don't think he has anything to click in there. But we've also got a clone trooper blaster pistol tucked into a holster here, which I thought was interesting because for the other figure, he also has that same holster and blaster pistol, but his came packaged separately. For this figure, I almost didn't see it because it was so sort of tucked in behind him and black on black. I almost didn't see that he still has that clone trooper blaster pistol because it was tucked in. It wasn't packaged separately in the plastic beside him, which I thought that was really interesting. This belt moves around really quite freely. On the other figure, we have that sort of pauldron shoulder strap, which means that this belt barely moves at all because it's fixed here on the shoulder. And the chest plates on these two figures are different. This one has like a sort of a box in the sculpting lines on the chest. This one doesn't. So the chest is a different piece and there's different weathering. So they haven't reused that same chest piece, but I think a lot of the other components, certainly for like the gloves and the legs and things like that, I can see some, yeah, the scoring and detail on these two pieces are pretty much identical. Even under the sort of different paints and plastics, I can see in sort of close up to my eyes, all that little scoring lines on like the knees and things like that are in the same places. So very similar components here. So I am expecting some pretty similar articulation. First things though, I want to try and get this helmet off. This is always a little bit risky. Sometimes you feel like you're sort of going to pull the head off, but I really want to see the head underneath, and hoping that this will come off without popping his head off. Phew. Okay, so that took a little bit of wrestling. His head on this one just moves a little bit more freely, and I just didn't really want to sort of pop that one off. But yeah, I like the Imperial helmet. It's got much more of a classic stormtrooper sort of face to it. Not to say that I don't like his Clone Force 99 Bad Batch helmet, but there's just something about that classic sort of stormtrooper face that is just quite sinister. So we've got that moving little rangefinder on it. And it feels a lot stiffer in terms of the plastic. This one I could squeeze quite freely to get on and off. This one I can just kind of squeeze it. That's taking a lot more pressure. So that also sort of made it just a little bit harder to get it off his head, because I really had to squeeze that to get that off. But yes, we've got lots of weathering, little silver details on the side, on those little ear pieces, silver grill, and just little tiny green. It's giving me very Death Trooper vibes from Rogue One. Very cool. So now that I've got that off, I can take a look at the face sculpt for him. So one thing about the Black series is that they tend to do everything in a very similar sort of style, which tends to be realistic to mesh with the live action in the movies. So because the Bad Batch exists at this point solely animated style, the likenesses are a little bit different. So I still get that this is Crosshair. You know, he is not the Clone Force 99 are not exact likenesses for the regular clones. They all have slightly different sort of expressions and faces. So I see the Crosshair sort of face here, but it just doesn't look, you know, exactly the same because this is a sort of realistic version of that animated style. But yes, so of course I notice that they have used the same face sculpt. There doesn't appear to be any differences here. If you have seen the show, you know that he goes through a little bit of a transformation, shall we say, on his face. I won't give too many spoilers, so I was curious to see if they were going to include that in this figure, but they have just given us that same face sculpt. Perhaps that's why they hid it with a helmet so that nobody would know that they used the same one, or perhaps they were trying to sort of hide that spoiler by sort of not showing that was not included on their figure. But otherwise, in terms of the sort of detail on the face, it all looks pretty much the same. They've painted it exactly the same, with that really fine little sort of targeting sort of detail over his eye that I really quite like. It's such an important part of Crosshair. I like that how sort of finely detailed and well sort of defined over that eye that paint job is. I really quite like it. Standard grey hair, very fluid movement on his head, which yes. For this one, I do think I'm going to display him with the helmet on because I just think it just sort of goes with this look better. I'm still undecided with my regular Clone Force 99 figures, whether I'm going to display them helmets on, helmet off, bit of a mix. You know, characters like Wrecker, he doesn't wear his helmet all the time. So let's take a look at the articulation of this figure. I'm expecting very similar points and flexibility to the original one, considering that there is a lot of reused components here. So his arms, same sort of movement. They're a little bit more freer than that first figure though. Well, that one was. This one is a little bit stiffer. Let's see. Very stiff. Okay, well, got that one to click up. This one was a lot easier to move. I can move that without being too rough with that. That one was very stiff. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, pretty standard stuff. I like the way that the elbows tuck in. I'm always looking for sort of joins that feel like they're well sculpted into the armor so that the joins don't look so obvious. And we've got same articulation on this other side. Hand rotation there. Again, same hand sculpts as that previous figure. So we have a classic grip on his left hand. His right hand, also more of a classic grip, but his top finger is raised. So that will fit into sort of the trigger points of his accessories. So I notice that his torso on this figure is a little bit twisted, but that is really tight. I can sort of move him, but there is no way it's actually going to stay in that position. I can kind of straighten him up a little bit from where he was, but he will not turn to the left. There's a little bit of movement to the right on my figure, but when I try to move him to the left, that just won't move, and he will kind of hold poses to the right. So a little bit of variance there. We've got that belt that's kind of floating around there. And then, yep, like the other figure, we also have that thigh rotation hidden at the top underneath the armor, which I really like. So you don't get this sculpted line joined through the top of the armor. It's hidden underneath, so you can get that sort of outer rotation there. And so that gives us a little bit more sort of movement, because that top point of the clone trooper armor tends to impact on raising the leg. So if we rotate that out just to the side a little bit, we can get it past his hip and get some movement up. The knees are nicely hidden behind those clone trooper knee pads there. Pretty standard. And his feet on this one move a lot better than the feet on my other figure. They are very stiff on the other figure. These ones are a lot more smoother. Should be able to get some cool poses out of him. All in all, as I expected, very happy with all of those. Just that rotation to the left that he just won't hold. But I generally don't pose my figures with a lot of sort of torso rotation. I generally have them sort of standing pretty standard. Okay, and then we've got that blaster. Comes out nice and tidily, pretty small. Here we go. So got his helmet. I probably won't put that one back on again because that was a mission to take off. But I really like it. I like that you've got that visor, because he does often use that. He is a specialist sniper after all. Okay, so now we have his other two accessories. We have a black version of his sort of Republic Commando inspired backpack here, with that sort of little, I always want to say it's like a handle, just that lower section there. And we've got a little bit more of sort of an Imperial look here with those red and blue buttons that kind of like almost like the same colors as little Imperial rank badges on the black backpack. So looking at the backpack on the other figure, it's pretty much identical. We just have a slightly different paint scheme. So the original one was gray with just that one red line. But we can still see those details, those button details in the original one. This one has them painted up like Imperial lights, but we don't have that sort of Bad Batch stripe on this one. So all of the other details are identical. So I'm assuming this is, you know, the exact same component. When I look at them really close up under the lights, I can see that same weathering cross lines, which means that that is from the same sculpt and mold. So yes, same component there. Now, I had a little bit of trouble. This is the sniper rifle from the original figure. So in the show and in other figures, this part of the blaster is supposed to sort of come off, so you can sort of stow it away, because this is a really long accessory. But for all my efforts, the section on this one just will not come off. I don't know what's happened, and I should have mentioned that in my original video, because when I was like wriggling it, I can just sort of see the line, but I thought maybe it's glued, because this will not budge. We had different family members try. This will not come apart. I don't know what's happened to it. I don't know if maybe just a little bit of glue from the factory or something is in it, but this will not come apart. So I'm really curious to see if I can get this one from the Imperial version to come apart, because for the rest of the details, they look identical. So I'm hoping that perhaps this one is just an anomaly. Something happened to it, and it just won't come apart. Maybe it's just its age and the plastic's gone just a little bit funny, because I really want to be able to display them in different ways. I do personally prefer the long sniper rifle configuration. That is, you know, what I associate with Crosshair the most. But I just want to be able to, you know, see if I can actually get this one to come apart, because by golly, that other one was stressing me out. So, oh, okay, finally this one does. Okay, so there we go. We've got sort of the main body and then that longer piece there that can come off. Yay. Okay, so that one's just odd. And I'm sort of kicking myself for not mentioning that in my original review, because I knew that that one was not going to come apart and I forgot. Okay, so let's see. We've got this slot here and a pig here on the side. Sorry, a little slot, and there is a pig here, so that you can sort of pop that extra part. Not sure which way it's supposed to go. Might just put that pointing up like that. And then this one goes in like this. So you got all of his sniper rifle conveniently stowed away on his backpack. Here we go. Finally, I couldn't do that with the original version, and I really didn't want to break his sniper rifle because I knew that that was how I was going to display him. But for this one, you can see we've got sort of a T-shaped peg, so you can't put it on upside down. Always helpful. And I like how well the backpack snaps on to both of these figures. So nice and easy. Looks really cool. I'm really happy that this one actually does work, because if I really want to, as far as I can tell, these are exactly the same plastic as each other, those two blaster rifles. So I guess I can swap them around if I want this version to have the long sniper rifle, and perhaps I want to have the sort of broken into two components for the other version. I can sort of swap them around, because I will always remember the one that doesn't come apart is the one that came with my original Clone Force 99 Crosshair, because that one was giving me a headache. Okay, and I'm curious to see how well this one will stand up, because most figures, they generally stand up well, but these guys have such big backpacks with a lot of extra weight. I am happy that he's a little bit rocking on his feet, so there'll be a little bit of adjustment, but for the most part, he stands up pretty well, even with all of that added weight on the back. So one of the last things to test is how well this particular figure is going to hold his blasters. So I'm going to try his tiny little Clone Trooper blaster pistol here, because I do like to try and get, I can get his trigger finger in there. I know it's black on black, it's really hard to see, but he does hold that nicely. That wasn't too hard to get in. Of course, I do prefer Crosshair to be holding his signature weapon, so let's go ahead and try that. Get that out. We're going to pop that in his holster here. I like how well the blaster pistol fits into the holster there. So I'm just going to see how well I can put this back together too. There's sort of like one main peg, and there's like a little bit of an extra little slot next to it that just seems to be okay. So that one does click and snap. I don't know why my other one won't come apart. Oh well. Okay, so let's see how well he's going to hold this one. Okay, so this is how I want him to pose for this one. So let's see. Okay, so with a bit of wrestling, I can get him to hold the sniper rifle there. Black on black, sorry, that's hard to see. His hand does take a little bit more wrangling to hold that rifle there than the other figure. Just the plastic, just a little bit of variance there. Sometimes they just snap in very easily. Sometimes you just got to really wrestle in there with their fingers. I do like that his sort of circular grip hand can hold the underside of the rifle there, so you get a really good pose. Takes a little bit of work, but we get there. It looks pretty cool. All in all, I don't think I like him quite as much as the original, but he is such an important part of the Bad Batch storyline in terms of him rejoining the Empire, and with this sort of Death Trooper-esque all black look, I think it is a very important figure. I'm glad that Hasbro released him, even if it looks like there is a lot of similarities and reused pieces compared to the original Clone Force 99 version. I think this one is my favorite version of Crosshair so far. Depends if they will make more in the future. Depends on what we see them wear and get up to in this third and final season. But yes, I very much do enjoy having these figures in my collection. I'm really enjoying opening them all up finally, now that we're on that third season of the Bad Batch. I like the different posability, the way that we can sort of stow the weapons in different ways, even if this one from the original figure will not break down into those two components. I think perhaps the figure just might be a little bit old. Something's happened with the plastic, it just will not come apart, which is a shame. If you are picking this one up later down the line, that might be a risk there with that particular plastic accessory there. But this one, with a little bit of tugging, I did get that loose enough that I can pop that one on and off, which is really good. So I can swap those guns around if I want to. Overall, I think he's a cool figure. I see a lot of similarities. If you can only choose one, I would go with this one, I think, personally, out of these two. But still, he is a great lineup and really important to have, I think, if you're going to collect that whole Bad Batch range. So there you have it. I will have the full unboxing video of the original Bad Batch Crosshair figure linked down below, or you can just check it out because it was yesterday's video. Do subscribe if you want to see more Black Series unboxings as I work through the Bad Batch and some of the other ones that we have recently picked up. We've got lots of other collectibles and exciting other Star Wars content coming out very soon, so hope to catch you in the next video. And as always, may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.